But that particular match apparently already had enough heat on its own on the social interwebs that everybody was clipping that and talking about what the fuck. And then it blew up even further from there because of Tony Khan tweeting.
Well, that match, the clip immediately went out and people were all talking about how embarrassing it was. I think Jericho may have trended at one point. The next day, as people were still freshly thinking and talking about that, and quite frankly, as AEW fans are feeling disappointed. It's not just the Jim Cornette listeners or the AEW fans who also listen to Cornette. It's AEW fans as a whole are not happy with the direction of the company. They have gotten to a point where they are finally starting to look at Tony and realize that Tony may be a problem. That maybe there's a tone deafness coming from AEW's owner. And in the midst of all of these issues, and it's not just the Jericho Dax match, it's the Death Riders, it's Cope, just Cope. It's a whole number of things happening. Tony Khan issued a tweet. This was January 12th, 2025, 4:20 p.m.
No.
Well, at least on the East Coast. I don't know where it was, wherever he was. I don't know where he was.
I don't know. I don't know if he knows where he was.
This Saturday, January 18th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central on TNT and Max. Saturday, AEW Collision. Jon Moxley, Wheeler Yuta, Claudio Castagnoli, Chris Jericho, Big Bill, and Brian Keith versus Powerhouse Hobbs, The Outrunners, FTR, and Cope. Maximum Carnage comes to Collision this Saturday.
Maximum Carnage or Maximum Damage?
Maximum Carnage, because every fucking regular TV show needs a nickname now at this point.
I thought, how can I do the maximum damage to my program? Oh, this match.
This match has angered the AEW fan base to no end because, again, who here is right now working for that fan base? None of this is. They hate the Jericho stuff. They hate the Moxley stuff. Cope hasn't really lit the world on fire. We'll see what happens with Hobbs this week. But the feedback was incredibly negative. Why don't we...
But, this reminds me of when you may have been young or may just luckily have not been present, but do you remember hearing about the boxing match that Dennis Corluzzo had with Tommy Fierro?
Oh, I was around, but I didn't go to that show.
Well, you dodged a bullet there. Because
yeah, no. That's why when people ask me what's the worst thing I ever saw on one of Dennis's shows, I could still say Tommy Fierro and the Iron Sheik doing a Macarena contest, because I didn't see that.
Well, Dennis asked me afterwards, said, "What'd you think of it, James?" I said, "Dennis, that's the worst thing I've ever seen, but I've only been watching wrestling for 30 years. And I didn't follow it with, let's bring it back next week and make it a 12-man tag. My God, that's the kind of match you come back and apologize to each other for. One side needed to apologize more than the other, but, it needs to be a mutual thing. Keep some civility. But you don't bring it back with 10 more fucking people in the middle of it. Try to forget that it ever happened. Did they put that on their... Do they have a YouTube channel?
Yes, they do.
Did they put that thing unedited on their YouTube channel, that finish, I wonder?
Oh, I have not gone back and checked. I don't know.
Somebody ought to look and see if they've done any fucking creative tweaking with that. If you saw it, tweaking being an operative word, if you saw the live version, but it'll continue on with your dissertation.
Well, again, and we have feedback here because I think it gives an example of the AEW fan base turning on Tony because they're fed up with this nonsense. But Moxley and his crew's whole credo is we have to burn it down and rebuild it. You're all too soft. You have to murder people until... I don't know what exactly they're trying to do, actually. The Boar Horseman. But If that's their thing, why are they teaming up with Jericho in the Learning Tree?
Because his object is the same thing, to bore the fuck out of us.
Well, here's some of the feedback.
Well, yeah, that is kind of like the goddamn space aliens coming down and teaming up with the Russians against, whatever. It doesn't really add up, does it?
The NWO are here, and they're teaming up with the Dungeon of Doom. No, it doesn't work at all. Here's some of the feedback directly under this. Storyline has gone off the rails, man. People not liking it, and it doesn't even make sense anymore. Might be time to reevaluate direction.
Ooh.
Wow, you only have 2 of the guys who have been on every promotional AEW thing since forever. It was the Bucks, Moxley, Omega, Jericho, and Cody. This is like playing Pokemon and having all bullshit cards.
I don't even know how to play Pokemon, but it sounds pretty fucking dire to me.
Yeah, I like that. For once, can you listen to your fans and not think every idea you have is gold, Tony Khan? That's a pretty accurate one there. What is this shit? What the fuck?
Wait, is that mine?
Tony, why are you doing this? Maximum carnage with the minimal attendance. Nice job, Tony. The comments speak for themselves. What if the Death Riders beat the Learning Tree before the match and introduce 3 new members? Anything could happen. Let's wait till Saturday. See, there's a pro AEW slant on it. Booker of the Year. Keep up the good work, Tony. Y'all got Ospreay, Okada, Omega, Takeshita, and you got the world title on Moxley? Fantastic booking. It feels good to be elite. AEW good, WWE bad. How to book the Nobody's Watching Collision, throw everybody into the show. Jericho and Moxley on the same team is wild given their history, and it just goes on and on from there. Tony Khan trended because of this. He's getting killed by his fans. The Observer Board, I went because someone told me I had to see some of the feedback. They've turned on Tony too. They're not ready to acknowledge yet that we've been right all along. We're still mean, or whatever. But they realize now that all these problems are centered around Tony. It's like we said, the TV deal happened, the TV deal. The media rights deal, which it's going to be a rude awakening when it doesn't produce any numbers for Max. But we'll get there. But ever since then, the pom-poms went down. There was no real goalpost anymore. Now it's just existing, floating through space, endlessly. Just where will it end up? Who knows? Tony will keep funding it so he can keep doing it. And the recognition that Tony's at the top and he's not going to step down, I think is finally starting to set in for a lot of people. No one really seems to be happy with the direction of AEW right now except for Tony Khan. What are your thoughts?
Just think about this. It's been 5 years now. This has been his best shit. Think about every booker. Whether you burn out or you do it forever, but you don't, but you're after the first 5 years of the same thing, the same people, the same place, whatever, that's your best shit. And, now and he doesn't have the roster, the cast that he used to have. And he's signed every big whoop-de-doo name that he can get. And now we're down to, they're making, a big deal when he signs a Japanese indie girl. So I don't see what we said this kind of shit. How long's it going to take before the fucking bloom is off the rose of, we've got to support these people because they're the common people doing the common people's good. He's the devil doing the devil's business. He's a rich fucking guy that thought that he was smarter than everybody else, and that's what I heard. He's still a nice guy, but he thought that he was a brilliant, genius wrestling savant, and that's what I heard, and I've heard a bunch of those. And the problem is, the only ones I've heard that thought they were wrestling savants are ones that weren't. So, anyway, and now he's just a 12-man tag for Saturday night. Let's see what fucking happens. That's what the thought is that's coming down to this.
And like I said before, someone told me I should check out some of the discourse on the Observer board because, like I always say is the problem, Dave Meltzer still won't come out and just say Tony can't book. Now the argument is, booking doesn't matter. Any thoughts on that initial thought? When you say, oh, he's a bad booker, he's a good booker, none of that matters. The booking doesn't matter.
Look here, you can take world-class musicians and just throw them on a stage and give them some instruments and they can come up with a show. But you can't just goddamn take 30 fucking wrestlers and go out there, well, do whatever the fuck you want and have anything but gibberish. So, of course, the booking matters, as we've seen, because say what you want, the WWE was going to do most of what the WWE has done, but that doesn't mean that Tony needed to really, at the same time, the AEW business needed to start sucking so bad, or that if things had been done differently from the start, one wonders, would Cody have left? And that would have done Cody a disservice and the WWE as well. But it's, no, you have to be able to take the talent that is available to you, that you've compiled, put together, and interweave them and make them intermingle in exciting and intriguing ways, which we're seeing in the WWE right now with the Royal Rumble thing and this game of jostling for the top. Instead of a bunch of guys who are hot shots because they've got an indie reputation, they get signed, they don't know what to do, and the other guy doesn't know what to do with them. And then they just do shit that makes themselves look stupid to the average person until they become one of the boys. That's part of a big part of that is fucking booking. Do you sign a dozen actors from Hollywood and just put them in a fucking room and say, have a conversation? Or do you have to write shit for them to say? You know, I got movie making experience. We're going to be talking about that here upcoming.
Well, for example, from Dave's own board, where the people are starting to turn on him because he won't come out and say Tony. Everything is something other than Tony's booking. WWE is hot. The media perception. All these things. It's never just Tony's not good at this.
The show is a mess. The matches that Dave says are so great, he's constantly saying, well, there's so many great matches these days. No, there's not. There's loud singers. If you're tone deaf, but you like loud, there's loud singers, but there's not very many artists. And there's not a lot of great matches. There's a lot of fucking moves being performed and guys fucking trying to kill each other. But we have almost a dearth of great matches, which is why they stand out. But no, the matches on AEW television are not overwhelmingly great. Neither are they on WWE television. But on the WWE television, we understand why they're fighting, whose side we're supposed to be on, or what the issue is, or possibly even sometimes now we're torn down the middle, but we give a shit. Because it's not fucking stupid.
Dave was asked, why do you refuse to acknowledge the importance of good booking? And his answer, because it's so much less important than people make it out to be. If AEW hired the best booker in the world tomorrow, at best, they'd be slightly ahead of where they are. Not all, but most perceived AEW booking flaws exist the same in WWE.
Oh, jeez.
Guys switch from face to heel, sometimes on the same show. Angles start and are dropped before any conclusion. Matches are decided on in the last few days, leaving shows day of with few bouts advertised.
Has somebody told him that Vince is gone?
No contenders made and constant battle royals. 4-ways and tournaments to create contenders because the booking hasn't been done long-term to do so. AEW is microanalyzed. Every week on WWE, I see things that people would kill AEW over that they do. Plus, WWE has far worse finishes. In the end, it doesn't matter.
You know what? I'm not, I can't even say I agree with that really because there's so many rotten finishes on both sides, but go ahead.
In the end, it doesn't matter. The reason for the gap is that the perception that WWE is the major league, that Tony can't book, that somehow the great matches are a bad thing. You switch bookers tomorrow and the situation becomes the same. Paul becomes the traitor, and every flaw would be magnified, and it'll be popped up by the WWE and Heyman or whatever. Or propped up, excuse me. Propped up. Heyman's not doing poppers, ladies and gentlemen. It'll be propped up by WWE and Heyman or whatever. So again, the argument, it can never just be about Tony specifically. If you switch roles, WWE would do this. WWE has done this. WWE is currently this. As opposed to Tony's dropped the ball.
Well, but besides that, and I agree with him about one thing. If they hired the best booker in the world tomorrow, they'd still maybe be slightly better off because after 5 years, what about if you run a China shop and you hire the manager and the manager spends 5 years inside with a sledgehammer, just beating the shit out of stuff, right? And then you say, well, let's hire the best China shop manager in the world. He walks into goddamn chaos. How is he going to do anything? Tony's dug the hole now, created the perception of, remember I say you don't get a second chance to make a first impression, but sometimes first impressions take a while to make. But he's created the perception of what they're doing and that people are yawning now and or laughing and or what the fuck is this and the backstage drama and nobody likes each other. Either that or they're all friends. What is one or the other? Either they're all friends and everybody's friend or relative gets a job, or they don't like each other and they're fucking punching each other backstage. And Tony's dropped the ball on everything. The football fans hate his football team. Soccer fans hate his soccer team. And
but again, we're talking about booking. And if you just look at people, if he decided to focus on the elevate,
had more interesting from the start, if he had established this is the flavor of AEW, not just we're going to have random great. Hold up. Random great. Oh, wait a minute. Hit the wrong button. Random great matches. Then instead, if he'd have made the most of the people he had, as they have done in the WWE with the individual personalities, instead of concentrating on putting everybody through a goddamn table and just making it over in flamethrowers and fucking whatever, then he would be better off than he is now. But now, if somebody, the Titanic, it hit the iceberg a couple hours ago. It's about halfway sunk. Bring on a new captain. What are they going to do? Help the old ladies to the fucking lifeboats?
And in terms of, like you said before, a booker's lifespan, the best bookers burned out, and that was during an era where TV was either once a week or maybe taped in bunches, and there weren't a lot of angles at times on them. And those guys got burned out.
Yes, and, they were concentrating on key things every week and keeping them going and watching the house, whether it was up or down or whatever. But not only imagine how mentally stressful and difficult, but imagine what type of personality it would require to keep up with over 100. We've counted, they got 150, 160 something people at one point we counted on their roster in all these multiple shows, these multiple matches. And they got to remember, and one time in that match between Tom and Dick burped. We got to do a callback to that and put these tournaments together with the A block and the C team and the fucking Gold League. And that's what nobody gets this shit.
And I agree. WWE does probably do too many tournaments because I'm not a big fan of them, but at least they're regular tournaments. It's not like a multi-week, month-long thing where everyone wrestles everyone and gobbles up everything and the ratings go away.
multiple person matches and tournaments in the WWE lazy booking because they've got so many different talents. They could do so many different things, but that's become a television content thing for them. And that's what they do. But at least, again, you understand when somebody's in, when somebody's out, when somebody won. And it's not just an endless car wreck where every tournament match also, in this match, we've got special rules. Nobody's allowed to fucking interfere. And then every other match on the show has somebody running in and beating the shit out of somebody. And the fans are going, well, why don't they just tell them it's one of those matches?
Why can't Jericho just gouge those referees in the eye?
Yes. Well, I think,
Don't say anything awful.
Well, no, I'm just saying that that's the problem, is that he's letting the guys who can tell him what they're going to do the shit that they want to do, and they're not recognizing that maybe that shit they shouldn't be doing. Whether it's Jericho or Moxley or any fucking guys doing his stupid shit, or Mercedes Moné. That's why, and whose idea was it to pay Okada millions of dollars a year to come over and teach him one word in English, bitch? And otherwise than that, he walks around and wrestles like he's a Fabergé egg. Just that, there's no structure and no. If Toots Mondt came in here, you have to have talent to put a team together and run the plays, as Dutch Mantel used to say. Booker's the football coach, team runs plays. If the coach would have to come in and actually teach the goddamn team how to play football from scratch, because they all played football in their playground and came up with some great ways to do it. Now we need to be in the NFL. There's certain fucking parameters. Oh, golly, we don't want to do that. The fuck? Am I rambling here?
Well, you're a rambling man, like a bloated Greg Allman.
Yes.
No, I mean, I think they make a lot of bad decisions and they double down on, Jericho had go home heat, so they doubled down on it. So they made that the gimmick. Makes no sense. They wasted time on, I see it as wasted time on Garcia and Yuta. If Moxley was so close to Powerhouse Hobbs, why'd they spend so much time with Yuta? This is the guy that should have been pushed. AEW just feels like a lost cause right now. And they're going to have a rude awakening because, it's going to cause people to jump to WWE when their contracts come up. But also, if Tony wants to keep them, he's going to have to pay a fortune because you're stuck in a wasteland. You may get some good shit career-wise, like you may have a good match or a good angle, but there's a lot of problems that aren't going away. And you know what? Case in point, we'll talk about later on with Raw. Same week all this is happening. That Jericho has this match with Dax. I thought they both looked bad. Then Tony gets killed for being a bad booker. Then Penta debuts on Raw. And all of a sudden we get to see someone who was a push star in AEW. Who was over with the AEW fans. We get to see him in a brand new setting. And it was like a different wrestler. So we'll talk about that, but I think
I'll withhold until we get to Raw what I thought of that debut and who I think the star of the show is.
Well, I'm not disagreeing with how good Gable is at all, but it goes to say something to AEW wrestlers if you see Penta. Night one. Merchandise better than he ever was in AEW. Night one. They had his masks and t-shirts and shit up before he debuted.
They were in San Jose. How different do you think? Because they understood his promo in Spanish. The majority of the fans, they were popping more for that than the one in English because it was better, I guess. It sounded better. And I know I'm doing a review here, but what would the reaction have been in Kansas City?
Well, that's a great question because that's probably how Tony would have done it. They did it in San Jose. They did it with his family at ringside. Again, I don't want to do the review now, but to my point, if you're an AEW wrestler and you're wondering how would WWE treat me versus how I'm getting it here from Tony, where I'm getting a lot of money, I have some creative freedom, but everything around me, to me, feels like it's not very good and nothing's really improving. Penta goes in there night one, feels like a bigger star than he ever did in AEW.
Well, and that's creative freedom away from Vince McMahon was a good thing, as we talked about a number of times. But I don't know if there's anybody with the pull to really be free from these motherfuckers now creatively in the WWE, the way that they're transforming some of these people that we used to not even give a shit to look at. I don't know if I'd want to be free of that. I mean, I would like input and, you know, a collaborative effort, but I'm not like offended by what they're doing with most people. They've even got the Viking war machine raiders look actually now like regular fucking human beings that might have gotten over like this 3 or 4 years ago. It's, you know, it's still kind of late to make the first impression, but everything is improving to me.
And I guess that goes to the point. Dave's right, there are perception issues, but the perception issues are from reality. And there's also the reality issues.
And from the better booking. So he said the booking's irrelevant, but the perception issues come in large part from the better booking. Because the guys are stars and they act and talk like it. And they have something interesting going on with the people they're interacting with.
It's weird. AEW, and I know we've maybe felt like this before, but never more so than right now. It's like they can't do it, but you almost need like a clean sweep. Just like multiple firings in one day. I mean, I hate to say it. I don't want people to lose their jobs. I mean, certain people just shouldn't be working there. And there are a lot of perception issues based on who's on the roster and how the roster's used. That's the booking. It's the booking, yes, but the other part, and it goes to the booking, but it's the roster makeup. It's who's actually on there and how they're used. And again, if the AEW fans are turning against Tony, that should be a real wake-up call, because they've been the only barrier between reality and Tony Khan is the fans with the pom-poms.
Well, and I will agree with you that they need to take the roster from top to bottom, which as it exists now is it's a mad world of fucking pro wrestling indie stars. And get rid of half of them that they're not really using, and maybe they could bring them back later on. They'd be new and replace somebody else with them. But what the fuck? And just get rid of the dreck. But I don't. If you tried to do a hard reset by firing half of the people you see on television anytime frequently, then it would be disorienting to the people that are left. And you can't just turn the battleship or you're like the fucking bat cave, the circular gimmick, right? It takes a long time to make that wide sweeping turn from chugging off the edge of the goddamn world to chugging back into Cancun.
Should they do something where, you know, he could stay home on the couch, but they just say Tony's like lost at sea for 6 months just to get the fans off his back? So they're not blaming him for all the bad TV and the bad booking?
Maybe Elaine Bennis could fucking entice him and then reject him. And he'd go and join Greenpeace or whatever.
Something else. Anything else.
Anyway, you know, something that a lot of the people in AEW probably need, the people that have the stress, the people that have the sleepless nights, laying awake, tossing and turning, not knowing what they're doing or where they're going or what's going to happen next. You need to calm your brain down, Brian, every now and then. You need to get some relaxation, some R&R, rest and relaxation, and that's what you can get from our friends at CB Distillery. You have many times rested and or relaxed, courtesy of our friends at CB Distillery, and you can vouch for this.
They are my friends, yes.
Well, you got a lot of friends, but I understood they were your man.
Well,
I said, I got to get my man from CB Distillery over here.
I don't know that lingo, officer.
Well, I'll tell you just the facts, man.
Where do you put your badge? So where's your badge?
Oh, it's up my ass. And either that or Dusty said, it's in between my legs and you're too fat to ride it.
Well, that could hurt. You may need something at the end of the day to relax after such a painful episode with that badge.
Or if you have pain after exercising, reaching all the way up to get that badge.
Exercise those demons.
Yes. And so if Linda Blair's head is spinning around in circles, folks, put some CBD down her neck. Now, our friends at CB Distillery, they have plant-based solutions to help with stress, mood, and focus. It'll give you less stress, a better mood, and more focus, or less focus. If you would like to completely unfocus, I think they got some stuff for that too. And it helps even with pain after exercise because they're all made with high-quality, clean ingredients, the CBD and the other things that are plant-based. And they go out, they get some crabgrass, some rutabaga. They go out in an alfalfa field. They pound this with a mortar and pestle, stick it in a capsule, boom, you stick it down your gullet.
No,
and there they did a clinical survey that 4% of the people who take CB Distillery products nightly wake up the next day and cannot recognize their spouses.
There's no clinical study that shows this, and also there are no guarantees.
But there's a lot of hope.
No,
there's a lot of hope. A lot of hope that that's going to come true.
It's a lot of hope from who?
From the spouses. Look, there's a lot of CBD out there, folks, but I trust CB Distillery for their commitment to quality. And that's what they have been committed for quite. As a matter of fact, I understand the CEO was committed last month.
No,
that's why
there have been no commitments or convictions, just pure CBD from CB Distillery.
They've all made a commitment to quality. They got a pinky swear when they walk in the door first day on a job. They've got over 2 million satisfied customers and offer a 100% money back guarantee. If something bad happens, tell your family, leave a note or whatever, they'll get the money back. So if you're still struggling with sleep, stress, or other health concern, it's time to try something different, and there's nothing different and more different than CBD from CB Distillery. And right now, we can save you 20%. That means you're getting 20% of the sleep you get and the good mood that you have is going to be free of charge, courtesy of us. Me and Brian, yours truly's, Truly. All you got to do is go to cbdistillery.com and use the code JCE for 20% off. cbdistillery.com, promo code JCE. You're going to get 20% off of all the fine things that are on the site there that they can sell you to send you to outer space, baby. Freak out. Ooh, yeah.
All right, well, doing the thing. Freak out, freak out. CB Distillery, one more time. Jim, what's that promo code? Ooh, yeah.
JCE. That's what that promo code is.
Only one J.
Well, one J. JCE.
JJCE.
JJE. And the promo code is JCE at cbdistillery.com. 20% off.